Hey there team, welcome back to the channel, welcome to my overview of Animal Well. For those not across it, I do overviews on this channel, which is where I have a look at the first 2 hours of a game, that being the Steam refund window. Steam reckons you can make up your mind about whether you want to keep a game or not in those 2 hours, and I broadly would agree. I would say that generally 20 hours in, you're probably not going to change your mind about how you felt 2 hours in. So I'll give you the broad strokes info, keep it under 10 minutes, and then you can make up your own mind. So Animal Well, I kind of slept on it a little bit at launch. It's probably the most hyped indie game so far this year. So I went in with the reasonably high expectations, and it's worth the hype from what I can tell. It's pretty awesome. There's probably a whole conversation you could have because there's no getting around that its reputation will forever be tied to the fact that this is Video Game Donkey's big first hit from his publishing company, and arguably he's probably one of the most prolific gaming YouTubers there is. So it certainly doesn't hurt having that kind of reputation attached to your pocketbook, but inversely, I wouldn't say it's overhyped. The only real criticism on any of that I would say, any passing comment, would be that if it didn't have that signal boosting that it does because of its celebrity attachment, there's a chance that this game would have gone unnoticed in the millions of interesting indie games that even I can't get to. So I'm not saying that it's not deserving of its hype, not at all. Rather, I'm just celebrating the set of circumstance that's put this into the limelight because it deserves it. Now, this isn't something that I would necessarily say has spoilers or can be spoiled, but it's very evocative of the indie game explosion of the past 10 years or 10 years past, of just being very simple in its design philosophy and its approach, but also its kind of refusal to, how would you say it? There is this emergent problem, like this line that I think we're all aware of, but no one really talks about, between like AAA spoon feeding and sort of not even necessarily indie, but the other side, the game that doesn't hold your hand, that doesn't pat you on the head, that does not condescend. And I think there's a real part of why Elden Ring is such a popular zeitgeist these past few years. It doesn't hurt that it's a brilliant game, and people will talk about UI and difficulty and all that, but I really truly think the magic to what has audience capture because of that is that it doesn't condescend. It allows you to poke and prod the game and figure it out for yourself, and you are rewarded tenfold for your efforts. Dare I say, the game developers are in tune with their audience, and they kind of trust the intelligence, where I feel like, and this is all a bit off the cuff, I feel like a lot of AAA stuff in their pursuit of wider audience capture and lowest common denominator kind of make their games aimed for the dumbest among us, whether those people actually exist or not. And it often feels like games are dumbed down so that even the lowest common denominator can't fuck it up. Anyway, so the point for that little tirade side bit is this shares that aspect in common with something like Elden Ring. A lot of this game is for you to poke and prod and figure out. And at first, you're not necessarily going to realize that. At first, you might just think it's just another indie platformer. It's very pretty, it's got a very cool aesthetic, but you're this little furball, tribble, testicle thing that pops out of an egg, cruising along, and all you really do is jump around. Then you start picking up little bits of equipment, like a firecracker that you can throw, and you can sort of interact with some of the animals and scare them off. But I suppose the spoiler part would come from, and I'll skirt around it, that you get certain objects along the way, and they're kind of fiendish in the way that you can use them. So much so that there will be multiple ways to solve a puzzle. I know I'm talking around it all and tiptoeing quite a bit, but I truly don't want to spoil it. Suffice to say, for a game that seems to be, you just jump and climb around, it does give you those moments where you listen to the game, you understand what it's telegraphing to you, and then you crack the code and you kind of feel smart in that moment. It is this sensation that is desperately lacking in so much of modern gaming. In again, I think the pursuit to just make safer and safer games. And so yes, very deeply satisfying little aha moments throughout. And that comes from using the items that you've got, interacting with the environment, which can do pretty interesting things to the items themselves as well. Anyway, I know this is all very cryptic. I'll throw in a dog whistle for those that know, but when I figured out how to use the flute properly, that was pretty wonderful. Just as an example. And I'm sure there's much more stuff to come. I don't know how much gameplay or depth or whatever, how much time is left in this game, but it seems like quite a bit. Broadly speaking, you seem to be trying to collect these hidden eggs in treasure chests. They're MacGuffins that, they have different names or whatever, and they go into this egg room, and that in turn seems to have doors open up when you get X eggs. There also seems to be these 4 lights that just show up on your screen. It's not a dialogue game or anything, so you just got to figure it out. But there's these like 4 campfire things. You can see them dotted around the world map, all in kind of different, almost cardinal directions, and you have to work your way towards them. So, your impetus is laid out fairly clearly, again, without dialogue, without patting you on the head or anything like that. But, the platforming around's a lot of fun. At first, I was a bit funny about the map, and it's not super readable, but you get into it. You relax into it. So not that I was against this game or that I slept on it on purpose. I have so many things on my list, and I try to favor things that are super brand new, and this is now probably a month or 2 old. But I would say if you looked at this and maybe you're turned off by the art style, or, maybe you find it a little bit not that readable, or just generally, you're used to shooting bloody terrorists in their head and this isn't really your pace, I would urge you to at least check it out on sale, wishlist it, that sort of thing. This is a really satisfying game so far. I've enjoyed quite a bit of my time with it. On the other end of the scale, because I do comment as someone who enjoys complex games, colony builders, city builders, things like that, your Factorios, I still think there's a beauty in a more simplistic game achieving kind of the same outcome. This game will twist your brain and get you thinking and get you engaged and make you feel like you're actually working for it. And yet at the end of the day, it's barely more than 1 or 2 button inputs as far as a game goes. So there's something to be said about the beauty of the simplicity on display here. But yeah, look, I know it's fairly cryptic. I'm not really going into super details. It's not exactly like there's a lot to spoil. But because of the simplistic nature of it, the cool moments that do happen were not spoiled for me, and I do not want to take them from you. Suffice it to say, it's a really quite wonderful game, and if you find that it appeals to you, you should check it out. Anyway team, might just leave it there for the time being. I'll catch you guys on the next one.